So here we go with the slipknot cast on. Make a slipknot first by making a circle and then just pushing the tail of the yarn through the circle and pulling on the working yarn. Then you find you've got that lovely little slipknot. Put your needle into the slipknot. Now, using the working yarn only, not the tail at all for this cast on, take the coming from the working yarn, take it between your bottom 3 fingers around your thumb, and then put the needle through that loop and around the working yarn coming from your fingers there. Hold on to the loop and pull. We've got the first created stitch on it apart from the first slip knot. Keep on doing that, but make sure you get a nice continuity between the stitches as you do this. I'll show you why afterwards, what I mean, because it's a very elastic cast on, and just in between the stitches there we do want it to be nice at the same equal length, because we want the edge of our work to look beautiful. So around, hold the loop and pull around the thumb, through that side, around the other side, pull it through and pull. I use this cast on technique for all roll brim beanies. I find it's a beautiful elastic technique for roll brim beanies. It can be a little bit awkward to do. If you find it awkward, you can just take the stitch off again and redo it. Just take it slowly. Hold on to your little loop and pull it. Like I say, if you're not contented that you're getting a nice even gap between each stitch, just take the stitch off again. So around, working yarn only, and pull it. The slip knot cast on. I'll come back and show you what it looks like knitted up a little bit, just so that you can see why it's so perfect for roll brim beanies. So I've come back a little bit sooner because there's just a couple of extra little things I want to point out about this slip knot cast on. I'll just show you as I've put some stitches on. You can see all of the stretch is in between the stitches here, and when the beanie is made, the edge will be like that, rather pretty, but it stretches out like that. That's where all the elastic is. So when you're putting the stitches on, make sure to give a good tug down on that stitch. Make sure you're going to discover if you're using this cast on technique that you can't leave a loose stitch. It has to be tugged down, because within there is the stretch anyway, so you don't have to worry about that tightness on the stitches. Pull it over to that side as well. That's an easier way. So still holding on to the loop, but just pull it in the direction of where that working yarn is going into the stitch, and it's a little easier to pull it on. There. So I'll just do a couple more stitches and I'll join up the ends. I'll show you a nice way of joining up the ends. So make sure all of your stitches are facing in, your edge is facing in, you can actually even take that elastic off there. And I put the elastic on as well, just to make sure the stitches don't come off the other end of the needle. Now, so make sure all of the edge is facing in, and if you're doing a beanie or some project that takes a lot of stitches, you can just use clothes pegs and peg that into place. So I've got a little row marker here, just a bit of wool with a circle. Join up like this into your first stitch. Now get the tail and the working yarn and knit about 3 stitches with both, and you'll find then you've got a nice tight closure at the join. So then you can let the tail go. There's the join where that row marker is, and you can see it's nice and tightly closed. When you come back round, however, don't forget to knit those 2 pieces of yarn together for those 3 stitches. I'll just show you for anyone new to knitting. I've come round, I've got back to the beginning, and do you remember those first 3 stitches? They had 2 pieces of the tail and the working yarn taken through to create 1 stitch. Well, this is, make sure you just pick them up with both the tail and the working yarn, and don't count it as 2 stitches. It's 1 stitch. So that's the second one. Here's the third one. So those, it's 2 on there, but part of it's the tail. The reason I did it, remember, was to create that lovely neat join. Just show you what this edging is looking like. It's very, very attractive and very elastic. So I'll come back when I've knitted a few more rows. You can see there's the in-between of the stitches, giving that lovely elasticity. So I've knitted a few rows after doing the slipknot cast on technique, and there it is. All the way around I've got a reasonable continuity of length between each of the cast on stitches, because I took it slowly and I tried to make sure that the loop in between each stitch was about the same length. It's a beautiful stretchy cast on, as I told you before, and I find it quite ideal for roll brim beanies. Do you remember when I joined the round and I took the tail yarn with the working yarn for the first 3 stitches? Well, this is the tail yarn, there's the join, and as you can see it doesn't need any work doing to it. The only thing I would do now is take this tail yarn and just put a darning needle on it and weave it through and then cut it off. So if you want to give the slipknot cast on a try, I think you'll be very happy with the results. So enjoy your knitting, and bye for now, and hopefully I'll see you again.